Why it sucked to be a Touareg salt miner. A dawn without coolness. Imagine yourself rising before the sun in Taodeni, an isolated basin almost 650 kilometers north of Timbuktu. Even at first light, the air is already weighty, holding yesterday's heat like a stubborn memory. Around you, low rectangular pits checker the salt plain, each one a man-made wound, glimmering faintly under a faint wash of gray-pink sky. Your garments are simple, a loose indigo tagelmus that shields face and lungs from fine crystals, and a faded robe that once draped cobalt blue but has long since surrendered to dust. You tighten the cloth across your mouth, tasting saline grit on your tongue, hint of the day's relentlessness. The tools of extraction. At the pit's edge lies a sparse arsenal. A pale wooden adze, its blade dull from endless scraping. A goatskin bucket sagging with wet brine. A ragged palm fiber rope that cuts the fingers if pulled too quickly. There's no glinting machinery, no rhythmic clang of iron. Only the soft crunch of salt crust fracturing beneath your feet, the muted scrape of wood on crystal, and the intermittent coughs of fellow miners adjusting to the sting in their throats. Heat that remembers no mercy. As the sun lifts, it does not rise, it swells, intensifying like a coal held too close. By late morning, the ground temperature hovers near 50 degrees Celsius. Sandals grow hot enough to blister, yet going barefoot would slice skin on razor-edged salt. Blinded by the glare, you squint at a horizon already quivering with mirages wavering lakes that evaporate the moment you step toward them. Each swing of the adze sends up white shards that glitter beautifully, cruelly. They settle on your eyelashes, painting them silver until sweat dissolves them into brine that trickles down your cheek, leaving delicate, microscopic cuts. You pause to sip from a leather water skin. The water is warm, slightly bitter, and rationed. Every swallow must last. The rhythm of labor, score the crust with the adze, outlining a rectangle perhaps 1 forearm wide by 2 forearms long. Pry the slab upward with patient leverage, listening for the dull thunk that signals detachment from the underlying layer. Lift slowly, carefully, because sudden force will fracture the slab into worthless shards. Haul it to the stacking area where, in time, a camel will kneel to accept its unlikely cargo. Over and over, you repeat this quiet choreography. Conversation is minimal. Words evaporate in the glare and leave throats thirstier. Sometimes a miner hums a low, steady melody, more vibration than tuned to stave off monotony. In that droning note, you can almost hear the ancient pulse of caravans long vanished over the horizon. Wounds of work. The salt is alive in a subtle, persistent way. It cuts each crevice of skin, turning knuckles white and raw. Crystals seep into the smallest abrasions and sting like a slow flame. Bandages are rare. Instead, you rinse hands in brine, embracing the paradox that the substance causing pain also sterilizes it. At midday, you crouch in the meager shade of a pit wall, chewing a morsel of dried dates and a strip of smoked camel jerky food, chosen less for flavor than for salt replacement and portability. Flies hover, drawn by sweat, but the desert's fierce dryness quickly sends them elsewhere. Thunder without clouds, mirage disorientation occasionally. The horizon ripples in such a way that an entire caravan seems to float above the earth, camels with elongated legs like brushstrokes on glass. Your eyes water, your sense of distance falters, and you steady yourself by focusing on the immediate, the texture of salt beneath your hand, the faint vibration of pick against crystal, the slow in and out of breath. Evening's brief mercy, only when the sun stoops toward the horizon does work cease. The wind cools by a degree or two, enough to revive conversation. You count the slabs, perhaps 18 today, and note any that cracked improperly, deducting them mentally from your share of caravan profits. As twilight expands, miners gather around a shallow fire fueled by desiccated camel dung. The flame glows quietly amber against the salt plain, painting faces in warm relief. Someone pours strong green tea from a battered tin kettle, lifting the pot high so the liquid cascades in a shimmering thread, aerating it into froth. The tea is bitter and sweet at once, a tiny ceremony of dignity amid isolation. You listen to hushed stories, mostly practical news of caravan schedules to Timbuktu or to Gaza, sometimes a whispered myth of Azali, the salt roads, said to be watched over by unseen spirits of the desert. Every tale ends with the same reflection. The desert is patient, but never kind. Night under unbroken stars. You lie on a woven mat as a canopy of stars emerges with a brilliance unfamiliar to city dwellers. There's no ceiling of noise here, no flicker of torch nor chatter of market. Only the soft hiss of cooling salt and occasional grunt of resting camels. The Milky Way arches overhead like a pale crystalline river salt of the heavens, some say mirroring the salt of the earth. Sleep comes fitfully. Even during rest you sense the evaporation of moisture from your skin, a reminder that every dawn will demand the same tribute. Yet beneath that awareness runs another rhythm, the knowledge that each slab mine will feed caravan camels, pay a modest wage, and keep the lifeblood of Timbuktu flowing far to the south. Closing the segment. As first light hints along the east, you rise once more, stretch aching shoulders, and listen for the camel bells assembling beyond the pits. The Sahara waits, silent, impartial, infinite. And within its stillness you hear echoes of commerce, scholarship, and distant cities whose lights you shall never see, but whose prosperity depends upon your labor. Allow those bells to fade gently in your imagination. With the salt pits receding behind us, we now turn our gaze southward toward the great river and the legendary ruler whose wealth would ripple across continents. Mansa Musa's legendary pilgrimage. Musa's legendary pilgrimage. A calm and peaceful vision starts to take shape, bringing a sense of hope. Quiet vision forms. Picture the soft pre-dawn hush over Niani, capital of the Mali Empire. Crickets withdraw into brush as the first pale band of light brushes the Niger's mirrored surface. Within a modest pavilion, a man in his early 40s kneels in unhurried prayer. Kanku Musa, soon to be remembered as Mansa Musa, has ruled for little more than a decade. Yet already the realm's gold fields, copper mines and caravan tolls pulse steadily beneath his stewardship. His ambitions, however, extend beyond wealth. He longs to fulfill the sacred duty of Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca, and to display Mali's piety and prosperity along the route. But he also senses a subtler purpose: to weave Mali more tightly into the tapestry of the wider Islamic world, intellectually, spiritually, architecturally. Gently raising a caravan preparations unfold with deliberate calm over many moons. Artisans stitch indigo-dyed tents whose canvas smells faintly of acacia sap. Scribes tally inventories by lamplight. 12,000 attendance pages, scholars, translators, guards. Thousands of camels laden with gold dust and ingots, their hooves fitted with padded shoes to soften the relentless tread. 80 richly caparisoned horses, reserved for the Mansa and his closest retinue, each draped in crimson linen that flutters almost silently in a light Saharan breeze. Despite the caravan's scale, the atmosphere remains methodical rather than frantic. Every load is balanced to avoid jangling metal or overstraining beasts. Every waterskin is tested, seams reinforced. In the cooling shade of evening, an elder griot softly reminds the youngest pages that travel, like scholarship, rewards patience over haste. Into the Sahara's vast bedroom departing Niani, the procession moves northward, shadowing the Niger before angling into open desert. Imagine yourself riding mid-column, the thud of camel feet muffled by soft sand. Dust rises in lazy spirals, floats a while, then settles. Even opulence cannot mute desert realities. Hot, breathless afternoons stabilize into nights where chill air flows like water over the caravan's canvas roofs. Along the way, campfires burn low and smokeless, designed less for warmth than for brewing sweet Tuareg tea, whose steam carries delicate notes of mint. Storytellers recount legends of Bilqis and Solomon, blending them with local Malian proverbs. Their voices murmur just above the soft wheeze of resting animals. In this cradle of starlight, time itself seems to ripple and stretch. The gold-laden arrival at Cairo. After many weeks, the caravan reaches Cairo, jewel of the Mamluk Sultanate. Narrow streets suddenly swell with whispers. The king of Mali has come, bringing rivers of gold. Markets pause. Scholars from Al-Azhar set down ink pens to glimpse the procession. Musa instructs his treasurers to distribute generous alms so liberally, in fact, that by many chroniclers' accounts, gold prices in Egypt tumble for months. Yet the act is not reckless pageantry. It is calibrated charity rooted in Islamic teaching on zakat. He supports mosques, funds schools, frees prisoners of debt. Even at moments of ceremony, Musa's voice remains unhurried, his demeanor composed, an embodiment of the calm dignity that permeates this script. Crossing the Red Sea, a gentle maritime interlude. From Egypt, the company threads down to the port of Idheb and boards sturdy dhow vessels. The Red Sea, placid this season, rocks the pilgrims in a slow cradle. Salt-laced winds cool sun-warmed skin. Wooden hulls creak softly, syncopating with distant gull calls. Nights on deck glow under unfamiliar northern stars, reminding travelers that the sky is a manuscript legible to the patient eye. In the sanctuary of Mecca. Finally, the caravan enters Mecca. Musa sheds the regal mantle for simple white ihram cloth, indistinguishable from any other pilgrim. Circumambulating the Kaaba, he recites prayers in a low, steady cadence. Chroniclers note his donations to local poor, his purchase of bread for visiting pilgrims, his commissioning of wells along lesser-used routes, every gesture more measured than exuberant. One evening, seated beneath a palm within Mecca's outer courts, Musa converses quietly with respected jurists on topics of jurisprudence and astronomy. Their discussion drifts, unhurried, into the night air, interlaced with the soft rustle of date fronds overhead. The return bringing light back to Mali homeward. The entourage is heavier, not with gold, but with knowledge. Musa employs architects from Cairo and Granada. He invites jurists from Fes, poets from Andalusia, and most famously, the scholar Abu Ishaq al-Tadili, who carries precious volumes in saddlebags, texts on medicine, law, geometry. The rhythm of travel remains gentle. Sunrise departures, midday rests beneath awnings, sunset prayers that tint sand rosy orange. As the Niger's familiar shimmer emerges on the horizon months later, The empire stirs with anticipation, not of treasure, but of transformation. Quiet revolutions in Timbuktu and beyond. Back in Timbuktu, Musa commissions the Jingerbur Mosque, its earthen towers rising like sculpted dunes, surfaces smoothed by thousands of patient hands. Sankar Madrasa, destined to attract scholars whose quills will one day scribble in the very manuscripts we will explore in our next segment. Roads and caravanserais that transform isolation into gentle welcome for traders and thinkers alike. Throughout construction, Musa walks the sites at twilight, robes brushing quietly across packed earth, occasionally kneeling to press a palm to newly molded mud brick as if measuring its warmth. Echoes of a golden pilgrimage, though Musa passes from this world around 1337. Gentle ripples of his journey linger for centuries. Monasteries sprout where he once slept. Legends travel farther than caravans, and even the price of gold in Mediterranean ports bears faint imprints of his generosity. A soothing transition now. Allow those distant footsteps to fade. The caravan's bells grow faint, replaced by the hush of parchment pages turning in lamplit chambers. Our next exploration will guide us into the hidden libraries of Timbuktu, where wisdom sleeps coiled in delicate, dust-touched scrolls. Segment 3. The Secret Manuscripts of Timbuktu. A doorway of whispering pages. Imagine yourself stepping from the bright Malian sun into a cool adobe chamber. The walls, the color of warm honey, absorb sound so completely that your own heartbeat feels gently amplified. Shafts of late afternoon light filter through narrow slits high above, illuminating slow drifting motes of dust. Beneath this golden haze rest wooden coffers, simple, hand-planed, yet holding one of the world's quietest wonders, the manuscripts of Timbuktu. You kneel, unfasten a bronze latch, and lift a lid that sighs on its hinges. Inside, neat bundles of parchment and leather-bound volumes lie layered like fallen leaves. Many are wrapped in indigo cloth, the fabric faintly scented with dried neem that wards away insects. As you draw out a single folio, its edges feathery with age, the parchment breathes a subtle aroma, a mingling of lamp soot, desert air, and centuries of careful hands. Origins in a city of quiet learning. These manuscripts were not the work of one scriptorium, but the patient harvest of generations. Beginning in the 13th century, Sankar, Jingerbur, and Cdim mosques functioned as both sanctuaries and universities. Scholars from Fez, Cairo, and even distant Shiraz journeyed here, drawn by word of Mali's generosity and West Africa's trade wealth. Inside open-air courtyards shaded by mud brick colonnades, teachers lectured in measured tones, no faster than a student's reed pen could glide. Subjects ranged gently across: theology and law, interpretations of Quranic verse, debates over commerce ethics, mathematics, dimensions of irrigation canals, algorithms for fair inheritance, medicine root infusions for fever, surgical treatises adapted from Greco-Arab sources, astronomy, the subtle arc of Venus, lunar eclipses foretold in tables precise enough to guide caravan timing. Every lecture might end with the soft thump of wooden tablets closing, followed by the polite shuffle of sandals across packed earth. The rhythm of learning was slow, deliberate, well suited to minds inclined toward contemplation rather than urgency. Esoteric astronomy between the lines. Now, open a manuscript devoted to the stars. On its brittle pages, lines of ink the color of eucalyptus outline concentric circles, the celestial spheres. In neat Maghribi script, a scribe notes that at a certain hour, when the star Canopus peaks above the southern horizon, The air becomes still enough to measure desert humidity, a useful cue for salt caravans. Not all text lies in main columns. Along the margins, smaller letters whisper personal reflections, a mnemonic verse for remembering planetary order, a quick sketch of a camel saddle modified for night travel, a prayer for clear skies during a sun's upcoming journey. These intimate touches lend a heartbeat to the parchment evidence that scholarship was never purely abstract, but woven gently into daily survival. The first flight of danger. Centuries pass, and one evening in 1591, the calm is broken. Moroccan troops, drawn by talis of gold, advance on Timbuktu after the Battle of Taodeni. Scholars hastily wrap treasured codices in goatskin, then bury them beneath earthen floors or carry them upriver beneath baskets of rice. Even in crisis, their movements remain purposeful, quiet. Preserving knowledge is an act of faith as soothing as reciting dawn prayers. Though occupiers confiscate some volumes, many more slip away into family libraries. Households guard them through generations, passing keys from elder to child, the way other families hand down lullabies. A modern night of unseen couriers move now to a faintly more recent. Darkness, January 2013. Armed militants approach Timbuktu, and fire threatens Jingerber's ancient doors. In hidden rooms, librarian Abdelkader Haidara and volunteers kneel beside old chests. One by one, manuscripts are slid into metal footlockers, cushioned by layers of soft cloth, then ferried at night by donkey cart, pirogue, and motorbike towards safer cities along the Niger. The operation proceeds almost without voice. Only the occasional creak of a cart axle or distant splash of ore breaks the hush. In this silence, the manuscripts themselves seem to breathe, pages fluttering faintly whenever a breeze sneaks under the lid, reassuring their guardians that knowledge is lighter than gold, yet more enduring. The endless labor of preservation back inside our adobe chamber. Observe how each book rests on a strip of cedar to ward off moisture. A technician, hands gloved in soft cotton, nudges brittle spines straighter with a tiny ivory tool. She works at a pace that matches her own calm breaths in. Adjust. Out. Rest. Nearby, a low-speed fan circulates air at exactly 21 degrees Celsius, its hum no louder than distant bees. She mends a tear using Japanese kozo paper and wheat starch paste, aligning fibers so seamlessly that the patch nearly vanishes. Her movements are almost ceremonial, inviting onlookers to slow their own pulses, to match the manuscript's quiet rhythm. Mystery still unfolding of the estimated 300,000 to 400,000 surviving manuscripts. Only a fraction have been thoroughly read. Hidden among treatises on law and trade lie esoteric diagrams, geometric mosaics that might encode medicinal recipes, star maps aligning human temperament with planetary conjunctions, or poems whose acrostic opens to reveal navigational tables. Scholars today pore over them slowly, digitizing fragile pages. Occasionally, a researcher pauses at a single line of verse and lets it settle, like sand in an hourglass, before turning the next sheet. In the meditation of such moments, the boundary between past and present thins. Both inhabit the same hushed breath. Letting the pages rest, replace the folio gently into its cradle. Close the lid. Listen to the tiny click as latch meets loop, a sound almost like the final note of a lullaby. The chamber's dimness deepens as daylight fades, and lanterns are left unlit so the manuscripts may sleep undisturbed. A soft transition step outside. Evening has spread a violet veil over Timbuktu. In a courtyard nearby, the murmur of scholarly conversation drifts on the breeze, measured and thoughtful, accompanied by the faint clink of ceramic bowls. We will follow that whisper soon, joining merchants and poets beneath rustling date. Segment 4, a scholar merchant salon over couscous. Twilight Invitatio, the violet dusk we glimpsed a moment ago, has now deepened into a warm velvet night. Soft lanterns, hand-blown glass, cupped in latticework brass line, a narrow archway leading to the residence of Al-Hajj Umar ibn Zakaria, a merchant whose caravans braid gold, salt, and manuscripts into one quiet fortune. You pass beneath a carved lintel. Delicate Kufic script blesses all who enter with ill knowledge tempered by humility. A courtyard opens like a breath. Date palms rise from square earthen platters, their fronds whispering in a barely perceptible breeze. A gentle water channel, scarcely wider than a handspan, threads the flagstones. Its current is so slow that moonlight seems frozen upon its surface, creating a liquid mirror for the sky above. Taking one's place on woven mats, guests arrive in unhurried trickles. Scholars draped in soft plum cotton lean their reed canes against mosaic benches. Caravan financiers in sand-colored wrappers fold themselves onto low cushions. Slender lamps halo each face with a mellow glow, erasing sharp shadows and inviting conversation rather than confrontation. You are guided to a striped woolen mat. Its fibers feel warm beneath fingers calloused from turning pages, or perhaps from leading camels. The gentle ceremony of the meal servants glide forward without fanfare, bearing wide earthenware platters of steamed couscous pearls of semolina fluffy as dunes. They spoon over a slow-simmered stew, tender lamb, pumpkin sweetened by sun, and chickpeas bathed in saffron ginger, and a dusting of ground kola nut. The aroma is rich but not overpowering, filling the night air with a mellow invitation. The host begins with the customary blessing, voice low and measured. Right hands only move gracefully, molding couscous into small spheres, pressing them against bits of tender vegetable, then lifting them to the mouth. The motion is almost meditative. Form, lift, savor, breathe. Steam rises lazily, curls, and disappears into starlight. Between bites, shallow bowls of mint-infused Laban circulate, their cool tang balancing the warm stew. Conversation pulses softly in the spaces between swallowed mouthfuls. Astral debates beneath unmoving constellations. A slender scholar named Fatima bint Hassan unrolls a parchment charting Jupiter's recent retrograde. She traces a careful finger across inked orbits while explaining how its timing affects caravan navigation along the Azali. Nearby, a mathematician counters with geometric proofs derived from Andalusian treatises. Voices remain calm, allowing silences to mature like well-aged dates before the next measured point is offered. The palm fronds overhead frame patches of sky where Scorpius hangs low. Now and then, a participant tilts their head upward, silently confirming a star's position against the parchment's ink. The night offers no contradiction. Poetry duels in soft undertones. When the meal ends, a griot plucks a three-stringed ingoni. The melody is neither lively nor mournful. Rather, it meanders, mirroring the slow current of the courtyard's channel. Two poets rise, one from Walata, the other from Gao, and exchange verses on the virtues of patience. Each line is spoken just above a whisper, giving the listener room to inhale its meaning before the response floats forth. Applause, when it comes, is a muted tapping of fingertips against palms. Applause, designed not to fracture the stillness. Commerce wrapped in courtesy along the courtyard's perimeter. Smaller knots of guests lean over abacuses carved from ebony. Gold dust prices in Tunis, salt taxes in Gaza, parchment shortages in Marrakesh, all weighed in tones, so even that a drowsy listener might mistake trade for lullaby. Deals conclude with the soft brush of seal rings against parchment, a final exhale of satisfaction, and a whispered prayer for mutual prosperity. The final glass of adder-sweet tea, as the muezzin's distant call announces the final prayer of the day. Servants pour one last round of tea. The amber liquid cascades in thin ribbons from silver teapots held shoulder-high, aerating it into a gentle foam. The fragrance of rose adder blossoms briefly, then settles. Sips are slow, allowing warmth to linger in the chest, coaxing eyelids to a pleasant heaviness. Lanterns dim, conversations taper one by one. Lantern wicks are pinched, their light bowing out in silent puffs. Guests rise, touch hand to heart, and depart through the archway, sandals scuffing softly over worn stone. Before you leave, pause a moment beside the water channel. A single palm frond dips low enough to ruffle the surface, sending ripples that glide outward until they dissolve into stillness, mirroring the ripple of ideas traded tonight. Transition toward rest, step back into the lane. Behind you, conversations are now memories. Ahead, the city nestles into hush. A dome glimmers faintly under moonlight, its plaster cool and untroubled. In this gentle pause, let the night settle upon your shoulders like a light wool shawl. Our journey through Timbuktu's golden age is nearly complete, and together we will soon close the gates of history for the evening. Simply breathe, and when you are ready, we will drift into a soft conclusion to fold every thread of our voyage into peaceful rest. Conclusion. The camel's bells have long fallen silent. The salt pits lie cold beneath a canopy of frost-sparkled stars. Mansa Musa's caravan fades into the mirage of memory, its footprints already brushed smooth by desert winds. In shaded rooms, manuscripts slumber, their inked constellations closed like eyelids after evening prayer. And the courtyard where scholars debated Jupiter now rests beneath palm silhouettes, lanterns dark and still. Across each chapter of this night, the toil of miners, the measured steps of a pilgrim king, the hushed refuge of fragile pages, the courteous murmur of learned minds runs a single gentle rhythm, patience. A patience that carves salt from bedrock, walks 1,000 miles for faith, copies wisdom one careful stroke at a time, and pauses between words so meaning can bloom. Allow that same patience to cradle you now. Note the softness of your own bedding, the ease of breathing air unladen with dust or heat. Whatever concerns traveled with you to this moment may settle like sand in a calm hourglass, grain by grain, until the surface lies smooth and undisturbed. If sleep has not already arrived, it soon will drifting over you like faint desert wind, cool, dry, and uninsistent. Thoughts may come and go, as caravans do, but the dunes remember that stillness is their native state. Rest well, traveler of quiet histories. When dawn lifts its first pale light, Timbuktu's manuscripts will unfurl another page, miners will lift another slab, scholars will open another debate, but for now, the night belongs only to calm and to dreams.